This interview is brought to you by my sponsors who give you something great to drink while you watch my videos. First, check out AllisonWinePromo.com where you get 50% off of my favorite Malbecs and 50% off shipping. One of the new bottles comes from a sustainable farm in Argentina where they handpick all the grapes. Another one's an extreme altitude wine. The third uses a natural fermentation process. These are wines you cannot get at the grocery store. Again, 50% off the wine itself. This is very high quality wine from very remote regions of Argentina. It has a very unique flavor. Can't get it at the grocery store. Why would you want to? Because you can support my work. So 50% off the wine itself and 50% off shipping. However, if you prefer coffee, then you can go to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison and tea. There's actually a tea option. But first, check out any number of the USDA certified organic high altitude Nicaraguan roasts that they have. There is a black edition right now, which is a limited edition processed with honey. It's very good. Or you can check out the Caturra tea. It's tea made with coffee fruit. And I like to cold brew mine. You can hot brew it too. It tastes a lot like black tea. It's very good. So thanks again for the support. Thanks for checking out my sponsors. And let's get on with the video. Says the producer. Mommy, go to my sponsors. See ya.
Vaccine passport? Yeah, but I need proof of at least 10 booster shots. Where's the... Okay. Lyme disease. Chickenpox. H1N1. Rabies tag. Proof of the herpes vaccine. Prostate exam. I'm going to need your Netflix password. I'm going to need to see your Blockbuster card. Tetanus booster?
I don't have it.
I'll give it you now. Got an anti-racist card? Now I just got to check your white guilt score. 9.7. Wow, not bad, man. I need proof of a black friend. Okay, how many pronouns are there?
92,627.
All right. Just put your mask on and show them your receipt.
You know, I actually lost the receipt.
How are we supposed to give you your laundry if you don't have the receipt? Get the f*** out of here, you stupid bigot.
Yeah, I just need to get out of the house.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I need to see your proof of vaccine.
No English. New in town. Afghanistan.
Oh, Afghani refugee, please. Go right in, welcome.
Taliban. Yes, my girlfriend's been a real bitch.
Very excited to have Tyler Fischer here. Tyler, I've had a couple of folks sort of from the entertainment Hollywood world who are living in the what do they call it in the Bible? In the
Hell?
what do you say?
Hell?
That's one. That's one word. There's another word, you know, that when the Jews they're out in the come on. So somebody's gonna get this right for me. I'm totally missing. I'm a seminary student. I should know this better. When they live in the help me.
Oh man, you're asking the wrong.
I know. I'm gonna look it up while you're answering my first question.
I'm only 12.
Anyway, not Exodus. There's another word for it. Anyway, I'm going to figure it out while you're answering, though. Give us some brief background on how you became Tyler Fischer, the guy who's now starring with Gina Carano and is getting a lot of... I saw you because you were doing some media on, I believe, suing a talent agency, right? Because you're white, in case people didn't know. I know you said you're from, like, Southern Connecticut, so maybe a little bit more tan than other people. But, yeah, so you are white and you lost a talent agency because of that. So there's a lot to discuss here, but give us the sort of brief timeline of how you became Tyler Fischer.
Yeah, I grew up in oppressive Southern Connecticut near the border, you know.
Yeah.
Sneaking drugs, you know, in the soles of my boat shoes over to New York City. That old story. Let's see. I started acting 17 years ago, went to college for acting, studied, classically trained, went to London for a bit, moved to New York City, started doing theater, stand-up comedy, film, TV. Career started picking up, booking, co-stars and then guest stars on TV shows. And then suddenly the woke ideology started to poison the system a little bit. And slowly, what I noticed over the last 9 or 10 years, every once in a while, a casting director or an agent would just say, yeah, we really, we can't take you on for this because you're white, or we're not going to submit you because you're white. I lost an agent for that reason. They sent me an email and just said, tough out there for white dudes. And then they removed me from the roster. And it seemed to be increasing and people didn't seem to be talking about it. And so I decided, well, I guess it's time to start making my own stuff. it wasn't about not getting a role, because I typically audition for 50, 100 projects before I book one, and I'm perfectly fine with that record. It was more we're not even going to represent you so that you have access to the audition. So I started making my own YouTube videos, writing scripts, filming little sketches, little videos, grew a following. And then another manager reached out to me about a year ago. They scouted me, and inevitably we got on the phone. They said, we're just not taking white men, and I'm suing them. So that's it.
Do you ever try the, like, I don't identify as this, or maybe you see that, but that's racist of you to see that when that's not who? I mean, did you try any of their own tricks on them?
Well, here's the problem: is they're all just complicit, and nobody really feels this way. A very small percent of the country or the world actually feels like, skin color is paramount to your identity. It's the 1%, 2% that is loud and angry and wants to punish an entire race of people for the sins of their ancestors, or maybe not. I don't know. I found out my great-grandfather is an Eastern European Jew, so maybe he was tortured, not a slave
The
owner.
word is diaspora.
Diaspora. Oh, I
Since
take
you
that
brought that up. Do you know that word?
I take that for indigestion. Diaspora. It's
it was when they were exiled after the Babylonian situation. Anyway, so now you know, since you brought up your great-grandfather. Yeah, when they were living in the diaspora, which is where you're living too.
I think that's
which I guess you could say is hell. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the part of Brooklyn I live in. So yes, I did say that on the phone. I said, isn't this discrimination? Isn't this racist? And it's like, yeah, well, the pendulum is swinging, and that's what everyone says. And I thought, all right, it's been 10 years. I'm not going to accept the old pendulum analogy anymore. I'm going to stand up for myself. And that's what I did. And I think it's a really sick thing that's happening right now. And it's become socially acceptable, which to me is the scariest part. This guy had no problem saying, yeah, we're not taking you because your skin color, and can kind of laugh about it.
I'm showing this is the official trailer for Terror on the Prairie, which I'll play a little bit of because you're in this, you're starring in this, and this is right, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe you didn't know, maybe because you're identified as somebody else with this movie, and now I'm having to jog your memory about that. I don't know. But would you say
I played Gina Carano? I identify as Gina Carano.
We all identify as Gina Carano, so you're gonna have to get in line for that one. So, would you say that you prefer doing your own thing now that you've done it, right? Because it sounded like interviews that I've watched with you before, you had this dream of doing the Hollywood thing, of acting in movies and kind of being more traditional. You decided basically by necessity that you were going to go do your own thing, and you've grown it and you've done very well. Now you're kind of, I know the Daily Wire is not necessarily mainstream. It's not Hollywood. They're trying to offer an alternative to that. But what do you think? Do you prefer now doing your own thing? Is doing stuff like this going to be something that is every once in a while and you're going to mostly do your own thing because that's what you developed? Or do you think you'll start doing more of this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's still unpredictable. I mean, ultimately, it's an unbelievably competitive industry. Daily Wire, fortunately, has decided to, to best of their ability, cast based on talent and who's fit for the role. And I believe they just did 3 female leads in a row, their first 3 movies. 3 female leads. And they said, look, we didn't make that decision. Those were the best scripts that came in front of us. And that's what we're going to do. If it ends up being 100 female leads in a row, that's what we're going to do. So, I lucked out that I came across somebody willing to do that. And no, I loved it. I mean, look, making my own stuff, it's like my YouTube page was just hit. It was shadow banned, and I lost 90% of my ad money and my income. So it's like, okay.
I still feel your pain, Tyler.
So, that's not fun. It's nice to have a little bit of consistency. But no, I think I'm writing a movie right now, and I'll pitch it hopefully to Daily Wire or anybody. And if it doesn't get sold, then I'll maybe fundraise and do it myself. But I think a little bit of both is good. And I do stand-up comedy, you know, that's a big passion of mine. So that'll never end.
Okay, let me play the beginning of this, and then if you want to jump in, feel free. Just give me like the peace sign or something.
Sure.
And let me know if you can't hear it, okay? Okay, I'm sold. I'm gonna go watch it. This seems darker. This does not seem like comedy, Tyler. Okay, so you obviously straddle both worlds. Were you always that way? And what's your preference?
Well, yeah, no, I'm probably far more dark than I am comedic. My comedy skill.
Comedians are kind of dark, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're a little messed up.
A little bit. Yeah, my comedy skills were developed to survive traumatic childhood experiences, you know. That's really at the root of it. So I'm far more comfortable with dark stuff, and then I can lighten it up a little bit, which is what I did as a kid. It's like things got dark, I'd come in and, you know, make somebody laugh. But there's not a whole lot of difference between comedy and drama. If you it's really about the writing, because you could have the darkest, sickest scene, and if a funny line pops out of nowhere and it's delivered properly, everyone's going to laugh. So to me, I have an easy time kind of going back and forth. And then I was able to offer, you know, a little bit of comedy here and there, whether or not they're going to keep it on the takes or not. I think that's why they brought me in. They're like, this guy's just going to go for it. They let me improvise. I improvised an entire scene. They locked me in a barn, had a camera peek through and said, you know, just do your thing. So, no, it was a blast. It was a blast.
Do you think that I think you already mentioned this before, but do you think that the Daily Wire and groups like them that are trying to offer an alternative to Hollywood are going to be successful at that? Or do you think it's still going to be kind of like, well, folks who were already watching your stuff anyway, and like, do you think you'll get converts? In other words, will you offer a real alternative, or will it already just be people that are in the corner to begin with?
No, I think they will, because I was a pretty far left or left leaning person politically, with my views, with the comedy I watched. And then once the woke came for me, I go, what's over here? And I started watching, you know, a little bit of Ben Shapiro. And I know he talks really fast, but if you really slow it down, then you can understand what the hell he's talking about. And I would have never dreamed that I'd be watching Ben Shapiro. And I don't, you know, I'm not very political, but I was craving something different. And I think people are going to do that with movies and series. And they're going to go wherever they don't feel manipulated and pandered. I know I just saw Top Gun, and a lot of people are going like, finally, like a non-woke movie. And I think it was a breath of fresh air to have a movie like that just be fun and entertaining. And the Daily Wire, I think, is they're gonna be competing pretty heavily with all of these other streaming services.
And do you think actors feel that way? Really? So, because I would think that like in my old industry,
they're not getting work anymore. People reach out to me.
Okay,
that's the thing. This really comes down to survival. People have to hit their rock bottom.
Okay.
And then I have far left-leaning actors reaching out to me going, so how did you get involved with this? What is this Daily Wire thing? They're going to come in herds.
Okay. I wanted to give you a couple questions for my locals community, if you don't mind taking them real fast. If you're watching this somewhere else, AllisonMorrow.locals.com. You can be on my editorial board. Post questions ahead of time for people like Tyler. What is your spiritual connection that keeps you going in tough times and really tough times? How do you keep the lightness to make jokes when the world seems quite shit? I think that's what that was. Or shot, I guess. But why would you put a star there if it was
shot? How do I keep my spiritual connection? Man, yeah, it's definitely getting harder. But I have to remember that a lot of what's happening is happening on the internet. It's happening on the media. when I go out to the park, I live in Brooklyn, New York. You know, if I don't get shot or robbed, I get out into the park and I go. No one's fighting in real life. Of course, there's crime and stuff, but the reality is most people just want to have a good life and have a family. And I've got a dog, and so for me, I go out. A labradoodle, mini labradoodle.
Oh, I love those dogs. They're fun.
I go out in nature and I shut my phone off and stuff. And yeah, I have to remember, like, I'm doing this because I really want to have a well-rounded life. And, you know, I'm in therapy, I'm in 12-step programs, all that stuff. It takes a lot to stay kind of, you know, stable, but that's that. And then I try to just laugh at everything. Yeah.
Okay. Tyler, do you feel it's important to work with more politically neutral or conservative media outlets like the Daily Wire to help balance out the outrageously woke Hollywood productions that have dominated the last decade? And I guess if I could just add to that question, when you were saying earlier, people are just looking for work, like for you, because maybe you're just looking for work too, and it wasn't an ideological move. It was just like, this sounds like a cool project and I want to participate in it. So I guess could you expound upon that a little bit? Like, you know, this question specifically, but more so the future that you foresee for yourself. Is it just, I just want to participate in projects that I think are interesting. I'm not necessarily I may be making a stand in that process, but that's not necessarily my first goal.
Yeah, it was, wow. Somebody said, will you audition for a movie? And I've been trying in 17 years. And I've worked with Jim Carrey's manager. I've worked with some of the top agents in the country. And this was the second movie audition I've had in 17 years. And they cast me based on my talent and my hard work and the fact they knew I'd show up and do a good job. So again, a few years ago, I probably never would have gone on Fox News to tell jokes or gone on the Daily Wire. This was more of a survival thing. But I think it's good to remove politics from it as well. There was nothing political about this movie. If it's a movie about politics, fine. But I think it's important to, and hopefully the Daily Wire does that, where they remove their political ideology from their movie making. And because otherwise you're back to square one doing what the far left did. So I hope we see more production companies not take part in virtue signaling or putting their politics, wearing it on their sleeve, and just making good stuff fearlessly. And I think the more people do that, the more it's going to pay off. Because if I could do it and get 50 million views on my videos, then somebody with a lot of money can make some pretty good stuff. And you should give it to me and I'll make the stuff for you.
This video has been cut short to fly under the community guideline radar on YouTube. So if you want to see the entire conversation, go to one of my other platforms. The links are in the description. The best place to go is AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where you can support my work and become part of my editorial board. We have editorial board meetings there once a week where you can give me feedback from the week before. You can pitch story ideas for the week ahead. They're very small live chats, and so I definitely will see your comment and get your feedback. You also get exclusive content there, so definitely AllisonMorrow.locals.com. But whatever you do, don't stay here on YouTube. If you want the full truth about what's going on around us, you're going to have to go somewhere else.